you're on to another edition of Power Wheel, a production of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN. This half-hour program showcases the prospects, challenges, and the milestones attained by TCN and the power sector. Coronavirus COVID-19 lurks around. Follow the guidelines to prevent its spread. The headlines. TCN Management, Africa Development Bank meet on critical power transmission projects. TCN worries over infiltration of transmission lines right of way. Work progresses on new Gagarawa transmission substation project in Jigawa State. On the interview segment, the senior manager, system operations and supervisor of the 132 kilovolt Suleja substation in Niger State, Engineer Shehu Bala, will be speaking on the impact of the expansion milestone at the facility. Stay with us all through this edition for a delightful experience. My name is Chinwenwa Anyao. The new management of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, and the African Development Bank, AFDB, have assessed the financing process for some critical power transmission projects with a view to accelerating these projects.
At the virtual meeting held recently between the parties, the AFDB Nigerian country representative, Ibrahim Afal, said the meeting provided the opportunity to assess some ongoing TCN projects and to chart course for more collaborations with the bank.
So basically, this is just to touch base with you and to sort of assess where we are with the implementation of the programs we have on the table, but also a forward-looking engagement in terms of how we can continue working and maybe developing pipeline projects together with the TCN.
Further speaking on the Nigerian Transmission Expansion Project NTEP 1, which the bank was financing, Mr. Faust said there was need for TCN to work with the bank on some documentations to expedite the funding of the projects.
Of course, we will need for TCN to work with us very closely on and to really expedite, given that it's almost 6 months since approval.
The Director for Power Systems Development at AFDB, Engineer Balchi Badi, congratulated the new acting managing director and CEO of TCN, Engineer Suli Ahmed Abdulaziz, saying he looked forward to having a more robust working relationship with TCN, especially on the NTEP 1.
Engineer Abdulaziz, first of all, congratulations on your acting appointment. And I know TCN quite well, and we have comments with you, specifically the NTEP 1. There are some issues and challenges, but this is just an introductory call, so we get to know each other. We put a face or faces to names, and later we'll get into project level issues.
Reassuring the AFDB team of the full commitment of the TCN management towards delivering on the NTEP 1, the acting managing director of TCN, Engineer Suli Abdulaziz, said he had headed several projects in the company and was working on strategies with other management officials for accelerating the implementation of the projects.
I have been in TCN for a long time, and all my career I have been in project department. So I know the problem projects normally face in this environment. So I'll do my best and make sure that this project progress very well without any hindrance. Thank you.
Engineer Abdulaziz also briefed the AFDB team about what TCN has done so far as part of its obligation towards securing the funding for NTEP transmission projects. This includes getting a consultant to design the quad conductor transmission upgrade projects and clearing compensations along right of way for the power lines.
We are making arrangements to pay the compensation, and the rough studies I think is one is ready and the remaining one.
In a vote of thanks to the AFDB on behalf of the new management team, The Executive Director, Transmission Service Provider TSP at TCN, Engineer Victor Adewumi, said he was pleased with AFDB for holding the crucial meeting.
I want to thank everybody.
The federal government has continued to invest hugely to improve the bulk transmission of electricity nationwide by building critical power transmission infrastructure. However, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, says the operation and lifespan of these facilities, especially power transmission lines, are being threatened by people who violate the transmission lines' right of way. Here is a report about this situation from Enugu State.
Huge power transmission lines are carried on giant towers over a distance, evacuating generated electricity from the power generation companies, GENCOs, and wheeled through an array of transmission facilities that include the transmission substations to the distribution companies, DISCOs, for onward supply of electricity to consumers. In the process of this, the transmission towers follow certain route called right of way, which have been secured by the federal government and the inhabitants of those locations duly compensated. This is to ensure that nobody lives and conducts any activities under these transmission lines, which transmit electricity at high voltage. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC, the power sector regulator, stipulates that for a 330 kilovolts transmission line, a 50-meter distance split equally must be maintained on both sides of the lines before erecting structures. For 132 kilovolt transmission line, the distance must be 30-meter splits equally on both sides. However, this law of the Federation and a safety standard is being flouted in Enugu State. Powerway reports that various housing projects are sprawling under the right-of-way of the Onitsha to New Haven 330 kV power transmission line, and there is a similar situation on the 330 kV Ugwaji to New Haven transmission line. The Assistant General Manager Transmission at the Enugu region of TCN, Engineer Charles Uwamadi, who conducted our reporter around the location at Ogoyi village near Enugu City, expressed worry over this menace, saying the transmission line was a crucial source of power supply to Enugu State.
The line is a 106 kilometer line, 330 kV line from Onitsha. In fact, that is the main source of supply from Onitsha to Enugu.
Engineer Iwa Amadi noted that the attention of TCN was brought to the violation of the 50-meter distance right-of-way standard set out for the 330 kV transmission line.
Seeing what is going on here, the right-of-way of this tower by standard is 50 meters, which is 25 meters on either side, that no human being should stay or do anything, talk less of erecting a structure.
The Enugu region of TCN cuts across 6 states, including Enugu, Anambra, Delta, Ebonyi, Benue, and Taraba, with a scope of 330 kV and 132 kV power transmission lines, as well as 330, 132 kV transmission substations, and 132, 33 kV substations. According to Iwa Amadi, the owners of the structure were creating huge implications of safety for inhabitants.
By doing this, there are 3 things that they are going to bring to us. One, the safety and lives of human beings working here cannot be secured because there is protection under this line that exists between one tower and another. That protection is underground. And immediately they are digging, they will not know when they will tamper with it. One, their life will not be protected, and this equipment will not be protected either. By excavating or doing anything here, they are encouraging erosion that will tamper with this tower in near future, which will bring about losing over 300 megawatts of electricity that transverse between Onitsha and Enugu.
Speaking further about the power transmission lines right-of-way violation, Engineer Iwa Amadi said it was an act of illegality and sabotage.
This is purely an act of sabotage to the national project like this. This is one of the biggest national projects in Enugu, this line and the associated substation. And by doing this, they have defaulted, they have encroached into the right of way, which the federal government will frown at whoever that is responsible for this act of sabotage.
At the Ugwaji to New Haven 330 kV transmission line, Engineer Iwa Amadi explained that similar violation of power lines right-of-way was taking place.
What happened in that Onitsha Enugu line is what exactly happening here. As a matter of fact, this building has been erected some time ago, and TCN has already marked, if you can capture it, has already marked that this building should be removed because it still falls short of the standard required. They have already encroached. They also encroached into the right of way.
Apart from that, he said there were ongoing extension of building in apparent violation of the power lines right of way. Engineer Iwa Amadi called on the Ugui community near New Haven and the owner of the structure at the Ugwaji axis of the state to immediately rectify the violations.
We are also using the opportunity to call on the community of the Ugui, who has also come around. We have also told him verbally the need for him to discontinue with, or he face the federal government.
Let's take a break. The program continues shortly.
Verify that land before you buy it. To drastically reduce the incidence of building under the transmission right-of-way or encroaching on designated TCN land, members of the public are hereby requested to verify land near or along transmission line route before purchasing it. Verification should be made in the Land Development Authority or at the TCN office. This would help in drastically reducing the incidence of building under transmission line right-of-way and save us all the problem of pulling down the structure or truncating transmission line expansion projects in your community due to court injunction. Help us serve you better. Verify that land before you buy it.
The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, says it is expediting actions towards completing the 33 kilovolts Gagarawa transmission substation in Jigawa State. Upon completion, officials said the substation would boost bulk power evacuation by 100 megawatts towards improving power supply to electricity consumers in the state. Power Wheel was at the project site recently and brings you the report.
The principal manager and regional project coordinator at the Kaduna region of TCN, Engineer Hudu Doma, said the project had begun in 2012 but got into hiccups with the previous contractor. He, however, said TCN has begun accelerating the project with the completion of the technical installation works at the substation.
What remains is the tower that will take supply to the station that will remain. But inside the station, all what is remaining is civil work remain. Yes, we have finished the wiring, the installation of the equipment. We even tested them. We have done the pre-commissioning test. Everything is ready. Only thing remains is the tower, which the contractor is supposed to supply it.
He, however, said TCN has begun accelerating the project with the completion of the technical installation works at the substation. The 132-33 kilovolts Gagarawa transmission substation is formally designed to evacuate 100 megawatts of electricity using 2 units of 60 MVA power transformers for onward supply by Kano Electricity Distribution Company, KETCO, to electricity consumers in Jigawa State.
The Enugu region of TCN, Engineer Charles Iwamadi, who conducted our reporters around the location at Ugui village near Enugu.
He said the Gagarawa transmission substation was a critical asset of TCN that will greatly enhance the power supply experience of people within Gagarawa town and 7 local governments in the state.
It will cover almost 7 local governments, I think, in Jigawa State. That is, it will cover Taura, Gagarawa, Gumel, Ringim, Jahun, Megatri, and other few of them.
Engineer Hudu Doma urged the contractor to also increase the pace in supplying the tower members that will be mounted to connect the 132 kV substation to the supply source on the national power grid. Engineer Eno N. Destiny, the project supervisor of the contractor, said works were ongoing at the substation.
If you take a very good look of the substation, you know we're at 90% completion. Then the only thing that is, the only challenges we are facing right now is our towers, which I got a call from my boss that the towers will be reaching Gagarawa maybe in 2 days' time. Then we'll start erection of the towers. That's the line towers.
A senior manager electrical at TCN, Engineer Saleh Idris, at the substation's control room, explained the functions of the various control panels and switchboards, which he said were ready for operation once the substation was energized.
We have all the indication that this is 1 to 2 kV line 1, this is 1 to 2 kV line 2. So the supply will come from this point, when it comes from here, this well to receive the supply. When you receive supply from here, you see you want the supply. This is where the supply will come. This is the 1 to 2 kV line.
The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, has continually expanded its power transmission substations nationwide. One of these facilities is the 132 kilovolt Suleja substation in Niger State, where it energized and commissioned 2 units of 60 MVA power transformers to boost bulk power evacuation in the coverage area. Today in this interview, the Senior Manager, System Operations and Supervisor of the substation, Engineer Shehu Bala, speaks on the impact of the expansion milestone.
How old is this Suleja transmission substation?
This Suleja substation was commissioned since 1981, that is about 31 years back now, with the capacity of only 2 by 7.5 MVA transformers. For the coverage area, Suleja TS is covering both Suleja and its environs, as well as part of Abuja up to Life Camp. Then it also extended to some part of the Kaduna. Then for the capacity, as I told you earlier, it was commissioned with 2 by 7.5 MVA transformers, but now we have up to more than 200 MVA capacity. Of recent, the management were able to install 2 by 60 MVA transformers, which upgraded the capacity up to that more than 200 megawatt capacity.
Is there any impact of the boosted capacity of the substation in the coverage area?
Well, there is a lot of impact if you look at the socio-economic aspect of the environment. Like now, Suleja is very close to Abuja. As a result, many of the staff working in the Abuja and also companies are surrounding this area. Before the commissioning of these 2 by 60 MVA, there was a lot of power limitations in the sense that the power transformers we are having cannot be able to accommodate the load we are supposed to take out. But when they install these 2 by 60 MVA power transformers, the companies and other individuals that want to use NEPA supply, they are able to use it sufficiently. Like there is one of the industrial feeder, we call it Abuja Steel Feeder. Before the installation of the 2 by 60 MVA transformer, they were limited to certain load of about less than 10 megawatt. But when they were able, the management was able to install these 2 by 60 MVA, up now they are picking more than 16 megawatt, which is a very good improvement.
Did the COVID-19 restriction measures in any way impact on the quality of bulk supply and operations at the substation?
Well, COVID-19 is an epidemic that affects almost all aspects of the life and presently. Actually, Suleja tea transmission is not left behind, because before the COVID-19, the distribution companies were able to take is much higher than now. Like before then, these industrial feeders, they were taking more than 16 megawatt on average, on daily average. But when this COVID-19 comes, now they have dropped their production. They are no more doing production. So this 16 megawatt is lost. They are on 0 megawatt. Then on distribution company side, even them, we have a lot of load rejection from them, in the sense that most of the places they go distribute bills and collect monies, they don't go because of this movement restriction and what have you. So as a result, they try to see that they always open their supply so as to minimize their losses and what have you.
Do you think TCN is doing well to promote the safety of its staff and the facility maintenance?
The current management is trying seriously in terms of the safety of the staff, in the sense that as I'm talking to you now, not less than 1 month now, all the staff, not only in Suleja TS, nationwide, the technical staff were provided with the PPE, personal protective equipment. That is for the aspect of the personnel. Then in terms of the equipment, management are seriously taking safety aspect of the equipment, in the sense that as I'm talking to you now, virtually all the substations in Abuja region, including Suleja now is scheduled on 4th of July that they are going to carry out their annual maintenance. You understand? So management is trying their best in terms of the safety aspect of the personnel and the equipment.
What other challenges affect the operation of the substation?
The challenges is not only limited to Suleja. There's no how corporate organization will not have 1 or 2 challenges. So the same thing with the Suleja transition.
That was an interview session with the Senior Manager, System Operations and Supervisor of the 132-33 kV Suleja Substation, Engineer Shehu Bala. Engineer Bala spoke of the impact of the added 120 MVA power wheeling capacity at the substation towards boosting electricity supply to consumers in Niger State. We hope to bring you more of these interviews your way as you continue with us on this program.
The only way to increase access on-grid is now to promote home solar system. We have a proposal, we have secured a loan, we are going to, at least we have earmarked about 5 million Nigerians that are in the rurals that have no access to grids, that all these long towers you see cannot reach them, and we decided to come out with the initiative of solar power system, where we can electrify up to 600 or 6 million or 5 million homes.
Thank you for staying with us on this edition. We will be back fresher next week on Power Wheel. This episode and the previous ones are available on our YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can always interact with us on these platforms as you support TCN in realizing its goals of advanced bulk electricity transmission services. You are a partner in the quest to defeat the COVID-19 pandemic. Continue to wash or sanitize your hands regularly, practice physical distancing rules, wear a face mask, and adhere to all other preventive measures. Let's kick the coronavirus out of Nigeria. I am Chinwenwa Anyao. See you next time.